Here we go, and we are live. Welcome, everyone, to our fourth season, if you can believe it, our fourth season of TL News Night, where we bring you the latest library news each month. I'm going to pass it over to Jane, who's going to give you a little bit of insight if this is your first time joining anything from our TL community.
Hi, and I'm Jane, and bear with me for a second while I go into screen share because I'm just going to show you a few slides. And I hope you're all seeing this now.
Yes.
So we want to thank you for joining us tonight as I'm loading for TL News Night, which is part of a series of teacher librarian events. The first Monday of each month is TL Virtual Cafe. It's a webinar series where we have great speakers from our field and sometimes outside, and we invite you to contact, I believe it's Tiffany Whitehead, if you'd like to be one of the presenters. Then the second Monday of each month, we have a live Twitter chat, TL Chat, and we invite you to participate in that each month. And then on the third Monday of each month, we have what we're doing tonight, TL News Night. And to let you know how it works a little bit is that we use the TL Chat hashtag on Twitter. If you want to add any comments or ask questions during the show, and one of us will follow it, and we will do our best to answer. Also, if you're wondering what's the purpose of this, well, the purpose is it's a live show presented in news show format featuring special guest experts from state library associations and others across the education spectrum. We also review school library news to benefit you and your library program. If you don't like how the media depicts educators or librarians, realize this: we are now the media, so tell the story the world needs to hear about all the great things that you do. This map shows you some of the state associations that have participated in the past, and we invite your state to be one of those in one of the coming months. And Nikki, you're going to have to remind me what this shortcut is. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's perfectly fine. This is for if you would like your state library association, or if you have ideas for the show, like today we're talking about banned books and banned or blocked websites. If you have any ideas for the show, then just sign up for that.
Okay, thank you. And without further ado, I think we're going to introduce the members of the team and then our guests. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. And I'm going to hand it back to Nikki.
Well, Jane, go ahead and introduce yourself first, since we have already met you a little bit. Tell us what you're doing, because I'm jealous of you right now and what you're doing, and hope to follow in your footsteps soon.
Okay, I'm Jane Lofton, and I decided to call myself at the moment teacher librarian in the wild. I officially retired from my day job in June, but I cannot give up all the other things I've done related to school libraries, like this TL News Night and conferences and Twitter, and learning from all the wonderful people in the field and advocating for the importance of school libraries. So that's what I'm doing now, along with trying to do more reading, waking up a little later, and a little more travel.
So, Jane, you retired and didn't leave us, thank you, because we love your voice of experience and all that you have to bring. But for those of you who might have seen the show in previous years, you might notice someone's missing from our panel, and we have someone new. So, Jane, did you want to tell who left and introduce our newest member to the show?
Yeah, we are very sorry not to have Sherry Gick, but we're sure that we'll get her in here some of the time, right? As one of our guests, and that she's not leaving the school library world, but she had to leave the show. And in her place, we're very lucky to have Jonathan Werner. So I'm going to hand it up to Jonathan.
I'm Jonathan. I am the president of the ISTE Librarians Network for this year, taking over from Sherry. So I have all kinds of big shoes to fill both here and there. And I am a library and instructional technology specialist at the Library and Learning Commons at Cape Elizabeth Middle School in Cape Elizabeth, Maine. Phew.
That's a big mouthful.
Business cards like this big.
Right? But Jonathan, I have to say, what you did at ISTE this summer completely made my entire summer. It was fabulous. So if any of you don't know what we're talking about, I'm sure we'll send out that stuff again later.
Oh, yes. And now he has made it so that it's going to be impossible for me to fill my role.
And so, Alyssa, introduce yourself because you were there.
I was there, and I have now just surrendered to Jonathan. I'm Alyssa Malaspina. I am the teacher librarian in Somerville Middle School in New Jersey, and I am the ISTE librarian president-elect. So next year, I get to do what Jonathan did, but nowhere near as good as Jonathan. So, and I'm excited to join you guys this year. Like last year, I was in and out because I was fighting for the school library program in my hometown of South Orange, Maplewood. And we won, yay! But I know. But so I was at a lot of board meetings, and so this year I am back. And I will introduce my dear friend, Shannon Miller is joining us.
Thanks, Alyssa. And I am Shannon McClintock Miller, and I am just cooking dinner Hagen, so I'm a little bit distracted here. And I am in Iowa tonight. And I was a K-12 teacher librarian, and now I wear a lot of hats in the education and teacher librarian world, consulting and speaking and helping others and traveling all over. And so it's been a lot of fun. And I love catching up with what Jane's doing and what everybody's doing since we're just kicking off the fall. It's fun to hear, and especially about Michelle and her twin, which I can't wait to hear more tonight too. And so, now who am I supposed to introduce?
Craig.
Oh, good.
Well,
I get to introduce Craig.
I'm Craig Seasholes. Hi, Shannon. Thanks. I'm Craig Seasholes. I'm an elementary teacher librarian in Seattle, Washington. I get to serve as the head for the School Librarians Association, and I get to roll over to the whole Librarians Association. So that'll let me do Washington Library Association starting in April. I, too, have my eyeballs burned by Jonathan at the ISTE. He came out from behind the screen. I'm trying to get that link up
Okay. Could I just
into the
say
TL
for the
chat.
record, all I did was dress up as Annie because every major person in ISTE Librarians Network was redheaded, and all the power librarians I knew were redheaded. And being a balding individual who needed to do more than just be balding, I felt that Little Orphan Annie represented the future of the Librarians Network. It is not like I did something pro. I just want to be clear. I was not inebriated. I was just...
You were just yourself, and in fact, you had a wonderful stage to do that. So.
And he sang a song. Come on.
Now let's get on to the content. Thank you.
Got a full song going, Jonathan. This wasn't just I dressed up as Annie. There's full song and lyrics and a video. I'm sorry, but you just like, I can't compete. Like, I can't even.
Okay, Jane, we're getting off topic and we've got 50 minutes left to go of the show, and it's going to be an awesome show because we have two great people here to talk with us about Banned Book Week, which started this week, and about banned website awareness. So Jane, did you want to go ahead and introduce our two special guests for this evening?
Sure, I would be delighted to. First, in alphabetical order by first name, we have Meredith Russo. an author. Meredith Russo was born, raised, and lives in Tennessee. She started living as her true self in late 2013 and never looked back. If I Was Your Girl was partially inspired by her experience as a trans woman. Like Amanda, Meredith is a gigantic nerd who spends a lot of her time obsessing over video games and Star Wars. And there's lots more to say about her, but I bet we're going to hear about that from her herself. And then after that, we're going to have Michelle Ludala, who is one of our own and one of our super, super teacher librarians. She's the head librarian at New Canaan, Connecticut High School. And she also does an EdWebNet webinar each month that if you don't watch, you should watch. And we'll hear more about her as she speaks. So we're going first with Meredith, yes?
Hi.
Well,
Hello.
hi, we can hear you.
Yes, hi,
You
Meredith.
can hear me? Okay. Hi, sorry. I'm not good at this. For somebody who's as big of a nerd as I am, technology's hard.
It is. And Meredith, maybe we should tell the audience that you do not have the Barbara Walters effect with your camera. Yes, we can see you,
yeah.
but
I'm having a real day. I dropped my phone and my phone camera's all messed up and my webcam decided not to work. But I have a cat in my lap. So
yay!
everything's okay, I guess. But yeah. Bye, cat. And I'm sick. But yeah, I'm Meredith Russo. A novel, If I Was Your Girl. It's a YA novel with a transgender main character. And that's me, I guess.
And you know, though, Meredith, I think it's so important right now to have you on the show talking about your novel and having a trans character in your novel because of the laws that we're having. I'm going to North Carolina next month as a lesbian. You know, I'm like, okay, I know I can go to the bathroom, but that's not really fair to everybody else. And so can you talk to us about some of the things or pushback that you might have felt with Banned Book Weeks, maybe not with your particular book, but what you know about in the community? Because I know that there's been lots of pushback, especially with any books that have won the Stonewall Book Award.
Yeah, I mean, there always is. I haven't kept up as much with recent developments, but there are two ways that I'm intimately aware of how important this is. One of the ways is that one of the books that helped me get through some of the hardest times in my life was Perks of Being a Wallflower, which, if I remember right, was in a lot of places, and almost because of all the reasons it was so important to me. Specifically, also, I think because of the LGBT themes. And for LGBT people, specifically older gay men, who have told me about times where, back at the height of book banning, the refusal to allow access to any written material having to do with them, with us, unless you were science and nominally accessing them for research purposes, was a huge gap that kept people from actually engaging in community building or contextualizing themselves or like understanding themselves. And it went a long way toward making people enforce the unacceptability of LGBT identities on themselves because they had no way to act.
Right. I remember, you know, back in the 80s, just trying to find a book where I could understand myself, and I had to go look in the nonfiction section in the deviant behavior, you know, category classification, and I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'm deviant. You know? So,
Exactly.
Right. So, have you experienced yourself as an author any experience with editors or publishing companies that were like, oh, we can't approach this subject? Because I think we think as librarians a lot of times with Banned Book Week, oh, we have our challenged book policy in place, and that's kind of where we stop, and we don't think about it from an outside perspective so much.
You mean you don't think about it in terms of like what the author actually finds out about like their book being challenged? I haven't heard anything about it. Which is kind of a relief, because I kind of assumed like obviously this will get challenged, you know, and then it wasn't insignificantly, which is itself a surprise. As far as I'm aware, like I said, as far as I'm aware, I get librarians who are some of the coolest people ever have been sending me, you know, tweets and emails like, hey, my kids are reading the book. And I haven't been getting any emails from librarians being like, we can't get your book. I mean, librarians, do you have my book?
So let me bring this up, because I was talking, I was reviewing the news over the weekend, and on Huffington Post this past Friday, the headline was about how neo-Nazi Trump supporters went after young adult new book author, Laura Silverman, for her novel, Girl Out of Water. And what they did is they actually attacked her Twitter account, and they attacked her Goodreads page and just slashed her, like gave her 1 star on the book, gave it terrible reviews, even though it doesn't come out until May 2017, because she spoke her voice and was using her intellectual freedom and her right to free speech. They attacked on social media. So I think that might be the new forefront of book banning. Isn't necessarily parents trying to take books out of our libraries, but others trying to influence books through social media. So what do you think about that, and what do you feel our role as librarians are in helping to combat that?
I think I was chased off of Twitter by Milo Yiannopoulos for like 2 weeks. So like, yeah, like Breitbart and Milo Yiannopoulos specifically, like the month that the book came out, decided like, oh, hey, let's be mean to her specifically. And it was almost like I spent 2 years hating these people at like dinner parties, and now they're paying attention to me. It was almost like a point of pride, but it was also like Milo himself seemed pretty proud that I stopped using Twitter for a while. As far as what librarians can do to stop it, I think fostering community building around the library, maybe, like, because generally, I mean, what can the librarian do for Laura Silverman, who's being attacked by Trump supporters and the alt-right? That's hard for me to think of, but I was thinking more in terms of insulating like kids and teenagers from exposure to that kind of thing, or from harassment themselves. I think social media communities kind of built around the library maybe could help, but I'm not really sure how librarians.
I think it could actually
just getting on Twitter to shut up.
Yeah, I think it could actually be a good segue into teaching students about good digital citizenship. Jane or Alyssa or Craig or Jonathan or Shannon or Michelle.
I mean, I think it's a really interesting topic, and I mean, it's sad to hear that you also, Michelle. I mean, Meredith, were attacked on social media for your writing and your books and all of that, and I think that sadly that's what's becoming the future of, you know, how publishing world and all of that nowadays is in the past you would write a book, you might get it banned, you know, but you wouldn't be like fully attacked on your social media account or anything like that, or your book isn't even published, but you say something and, you know, then it's all, you know, your Goodreads is a mess and all of that. And I think it's sad. And I think we as librarians can use this as a method to teach our children different things and how to, you know, not do that. And and how to express yourselves and your views in a proper way online, because you can still express your views, but you have to do it in a proper manner that's not attacking and hurting others. And I think that these type of things can actually be somewhat good. That's my sort of take on it.
Yeah, we're trying to teach students whenever we get the chance to be good digital citizens, good etiquette. And I think when we hear about something unfortunate that has happened to an author, we should, at the very least, use that as a teachable moment to let students know the consequences of poor behavior and how they should be upstanders, and as they contribute to social media, as we do, that we can support people who have been attacked.
Well, and look at what happened to Kate Messner when her new book came out, earlier this year, and how disappointed the kids were that she was going to come to their school, and then all of a sudden that she couldn't come because her book was being challenged. And, a lot of that, her writing, on social media or blogging or articles or whatever, and other people speaking out about it, I think it was so great because it was such a great conversation and for us to have with our students. And for me, with my own child, who is in 6th grade and loves Kate Messner, and so it was a great conversation that way too. I think it just opens them up so much more to the world that we live in, and being accepting and kind to all. So.
And I'll just jump in, Jonathan, sorry, cut you off, but I always go back to a touchstone book that hit the world in a big way. And without overplaying it, when I'm working with young children, I'll hold up Haroun and the Sea of Stories, a father's book to their child while they were unable to be in public for many years because of banning. And I just, the righteous indignation of children is a beautiful thing, but then to show the action steps that we as librarians take. We add the books purposely to our collection. We don't take them away. We invite the conversation. We don't deflect the conversation. And that's one of the great joys of working in a library and a highly diverse community.
So all I was going to say is I just tweeted out a photo of my 306 section when I came to my library a few years ago. And as Nikki described, wonderful texts that are so meaningful and powerful to LGBTQ students are still sandwiched between child porn and selling women, as if the deviance remains. So I would say, 2 years after the 1980s, Nikki, 2016, we're still facing this right on our own shelves. So going to the question, what do I teach? I walk classes over to my 306 and I say, what do you see or what do you notice? And then we talk about Kevin Honeycutt's idea of the digital tattoo and what you put out there being not a footprint that could disappear, but if these are statements you're going to make, are they ones you're comfortable being permanent in the record? And even in 5th and 6th grade, it really will, I have 5th through 8th grade, really will sort of set them back on their heels. And like Craig, I'm not, really pushing it so far that I'm alienating people from the conversation, I hope, but I'm saying, how do these things relate and what messages are we sending when it is possible to try to navigate your library and find yourself? I mean, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say it would be like walking into a section of your library and finding yourself as an African American defined as, 10 great American Negroes, and what that must do to your experience of self when you find yourself on the shelf in that way. So it is a very powerful message to me, and one I really focus on with my kids in concert with that idea of the digital tattoo.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, Jonathan, because that's another thing that Laura Silverman says. She wanted to be on the show, like I said, but I have some notes from her. But she said that she does know countless writers, particularly writers of color, that face endless harassment on Twitter just for talking about the need for diversity in books. And I wasn't present for the show we did last year, but I've watched it, and what a great job you guys did with our show on diversity in books and how to provide that diversity there. And so I think that's still a very important thing to discuss and to make sure that we're representing all people that we serve. Meredith, what was your experience in your school library when you were a teenager? Did you have something similar to what I went through? And
well, the library wasn't the most impressive library I've ever seen, just in general, as far as what the school library contained. There was less of a need for it at my school because it was a high school for the arts, and so already had a lot of LGBT community building on campus anyway. But I did just realize, I think one of the most important things that you can do as a librarian talking to kids about books, because you were mentioning that it's largely women and other minorities that are experiencing this harassment when it happens. Like, in my experience on social media, there are white men writing books that get challenged, but then they don't have like hundreds of Trump supporters clogging their feed with death threats. Usually it's a generalization. And I think somebody mentioned teachable moment earlier. Moments like these, if you're already talking to your kids about them, could be teachable moments, not just for the importance of representation, but for the importance of, hey, Ben, you've got a Twitter account. Women are afraid, like some women are standing up to them, but a lot of women are afraid to stand up to these people who are being mean to this other woman. But you're a man, and if you do it, it'll mean so much more. So even outside of the realm of books, bringing kids' attention to these moments can be a good opportunity to take a kid in a position of privilege and teach them the worthiness of standing up for the people who are consistently targets.
And I will say specifically where I am the least diverse place. I'm in Maine. I'm in a very wealthy school district that I adore. But any moment I can to talk about someone not being a coastal Maine white family with a 5 to 6 figure income is a major earthquake for these kids. And so I think across the board, finding yourself in a school, as you described, where you do feel somewhat included. I'm particularly sensitive to kids that are not traditionally Cape Elizabeth kids. There's that wonderful quote that I can never quite say about, if you don't find yourself in a story at an early age, then it is really difficult to find yourself at any point until you connect with those people in real life. And so many kids, you describe your experience with Brooks being a wallflower, but two boys kissing, and so many opportunities now we have to just, one of the things I really work hard on is just putting them all out with not any distinction. Like, here's some new fiction and not the gay books. And even that message is really powerful, I hope, in terms of giving people a sense of.
If you put it out and you say, here are the gay books, I guarantee you there are a lot of gay kids that are going to pass them right by because they've seen which books that were labeled the gay books.
Right.
But if you put them out, like, hey, here's a bunch of books. Hey, here's a bunch of books. And kids look at them, a book mixed in there that they can easily find, then that's way better. Because my middle school wasn't a middle school for the arts. It was a traditional Southern middle school. And I'll tell you what, if somebody'd seen me walking out of the library with the gay book, it would have been thrown across the parking lot in a hot minute.
Now, how far down south are you? Because I'm in Alabama.
Yeah.
You're in the Georgia area, right?
I'm in Southeast Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Born and raised.
There you go. I'm almost to the Tennessee line because I'm right up there.
Oh, close. I'm in Chattanooga.
I was just there last weekend.
You poor thing.
I know, right? Very cool. Well, now, Michelle, you're sitting there very quiet, but I know that you have some information. So we're going to make a little bit of a transition right now from talking just about banned books and what we can do, not just by having a policy in place in our libraries, but also embracing social media and doing what we need to do on social media to help support authors that way. Because I was at a conference, y'all, and I'm going to hog the conversation for just a minute. I was at a conference this summer where I was talking to someone at the state level, a librarian at the state level, and I was doing my Snapchat because, you know, I have a Snapchat addiction. And I know I'm 12 steps, but and I was doing that and was told, I have a real job to do. I don't have time for social media. And my response in my head, because I couldn't get the words out, was, but social media is part of my real job. It's telling my story. It's telling the story of the kids. It's getting the word out there. It's being a citizen. And I think, you know, with what's happening, like with Laura Silverman and with Meredith and with other authors, if we're not in the social media atmosphere, how are we protecting our libraries? How are we protecting our kids? How are we protecting the books that we're getting into our libraries? So, and then that comes into the whole thing of social media being blocked at schools. And so then how do we even teach how to use social media responsibly so that we don't have students growing up to be bullies that are attacking and not using their voice in a constructive manner, I would say. And so, Michelle, I think that just goes straight into what you're wanting to talk about tonight with blocked or banned websites.
Right. Well, I was taking some notes while you guys were talking, and I also was on mute. I didn't want to crowd up the sound waves. But, you know, it takes a really long time to actually have a book banned in a school. It takes 140 characters to ban a book on Twitter. And I think that is a really powerful message. So your response, as visceral as it was, I completely understand to that person you were talking to this summer, because it is part of our job, not just to celebrate all the little nuggets of learning that occur throughout the day. And one of the great vehicles we have to do that is through Twitter. I'm so fortunate to have a principal who tweets celebrations of learning all day long. And, you know, even on the weekend, sometimes, you know, he's celebrating more learning. And it's really fabulous. And what that's done is it's empowered, it's modeled for the kids in ways that we haven't seen administrators do this before in our building. This is a fairly new development for us. So I know that, like, Shannon, John, you came from a district, I mean, you made that part of Van Meter's culture there. But it's really an important way to model digital citizenship in a way that, you know, yes, you can, there's lots of curriculum, there's lots of ways to teach digital citizenship, but I don't think there are any ways that are quite as authentic and quite as organic as actually participating in social media with your learners. And one of my great concerns, and you know, I feel like I'm a broken record sometimes when September rolls around, because this is something that I've talked about for a very long time. And AASL has done a great job, the American Association of School Librarians has done a great job of making this Wednesday, the middle of Banned Books Week, Banned Websites Awareness Day, and to really try to elevate the conversation amongst educators and students and parents about this topic. But one of the things that's really concerning me in a growing development, there are now 37 states that are getting their hand in the choices that we have available to us in terms of applications, web applications and software and online tools and online learning tools, including social media, because student data privacy is becoming part of a national conversation, and an important national conversation. But when it's being legislated at state level by folks who don't have a lot of education background and a lot of experience in the classroom, we start running into misguided policies. And I think that that's one of the things we're running to here in the state of Connecticut. And that's really been the dominant conversation for us since we've started school again, is what can we still use and what can we not use? And okay, we might be able to use a whole bunch of things before, if so long as we have signed contracts before October 1st, but we're gonna have to have this conversation again next year when we can't be grandfathered in with those contracts. So I think that that's been a really growing concern. I did want to share one thing back to the book conversation just for a second. When we post our summer reading list, which is really diverse, one of the things we tell the parents, because we have had pushback on even just book selections in our summer reading list, that every book will not suit every student, but there will be a book for every student in the school. And that's something we take great pride in, and it's really an important element to the conversation, is that we talk about differentiation, and personalized learning is really part of the conversation on a national level right now. And books are a fabulous vehicle to do those to accomplish those two things, to differentiate and to personalize learning. So I'll pause. Do you guys have you want to add to that?
Michelle, how you're celebrating at your school. Are you celebrating?
Well, no. Well, yes, we are. We're celebrating banned books, but we are leaving Banned Websites Awareness Day alone, just because this year, for years I've had this "We Trust You" video that we release on the first day of school, and we show it to the freshmen. And because we have three things happening. One, we released BYOD, so every student in the building has a device. Two, this is happening in conjunction with this brand new legislation that we're grappling with, and it's been a challenge. I have to say, it's been really tough. We're trying to figure out ways that we can sort of, this is adding a whole new layer of advocacy now to all the advocacy things that we need to worry about. This is adding yet another layer. So we've been pretty quiet just because we're in a tricky position right now, just because every kid has a computer. We have a number of parents who are concerned about that. And then we have this new legislation. So we've been very quiet this year, which makes me a little bit uncomfortable, because here I am talking about, yes, it's Banned Websites Awareness Day, and yet we're very quiet in our school. So I'm hoping that you're hearing stories out there that may sort of offset my, I wouldn't say embarrassment, but I'm a little shamefaced today, because I don't have a great idea as to how we're celebrating in our school. On the other hand, my new colleague, Jackie, has done an extraordinary job with displays on banned books. And she's done really a fabulous job. And I don't know if you can see my shirt, but it says, "I read banned books." And we both wore them, of course, which really, for those who didn't hear this, my new colleague and I look a lot alike. It's very funny. So when we dress alike, it really throws the kids off.
I saw the pictures on Facebook. Meredith, were you wanting to say something? I think you're muted.
You can see Meredith now.
Alyssa, do you know how to unmute Meredith?
Meredith can unmute himself, I think. I can't unmute him. I muted him just so, because we were, he was moving things around. But I can't unmute. I checked.
Up at the top, there should be a little microphone that you should be able to unmute.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Yes, Meredith. Uh-oh. Jane just muted you, Meredith. Technical difficulties. We can see you. And but click that microphone again. There we go. No. Click the microphone at the top again, Meredith. We muted you again. We just don't want to hear from you. No. Okay, you should be good.
Okay, can you hear me?
You can't trust librarians. Yes.
Yeah, hear you
Okay. Well, hold on. All right. Just go to somebody else's camera really quick. I can't deal with this. Okay. I was gonna say that things improved since when I was in high school. Because when I was in high school, you couldn't do research about World War II. Because if you looked up the Enola Gay, the school servers wouldn't let you look it up because it had the word gay in it. And if you wanted to look up the life of George Orwell, you weren't allowed to look it up because it was considered seditious material. And I was wondering, it might be, cold comfort, but have things improved at least a little bit since then?
I think I have to say that I taught in a school that had, not this school I'm in now, but the school that I previously worked in, had very tight filters, and it would piss me off when we were doing banned book week. We were teaching the kids about banned book, and they'd have to read a banned book, and the banned book website would be banned, and I'd tweet out like, the irony here is not lost on me how stupid this is. It all comes down to who your network administrator is. I've been on the ed tech side too as a supervisor. And if you have, and I'm now in a school district that isn't as strict. There are filters, for certain things, but it's not nearly as strict as other places. So it's a little more open. I haven't run into as many problems as, other times. But it really comes down to who your network administrator is and who your the ones who are controlling the filters are. There by law have to be filters on the schools, on the computers, but it can be like, very laid back or not as laid back. And I think it's just sort of where you are. I mean, others can talk to it, but that's
okay, this makes me bananas. I'm going to do my very best not to scream. The law does not say you have to filter aggressively. The law is very narrow in what you need to filter. I used to be an education lawyer. It was a miserable, sad part of my life. I'm back now. And here I am trying to convince people that does it really make sense to teach our kids the good luck theory of the internet? Like, hope that goes well for you? Or do we teach them responsibly? And to me, it's a no-brainer. So I just empower you to say, sit down with the regulations. If your network administrator is pushing back, go to the board. It is not there. What is there is very limited and in no way justified. Now, granted, you may live in a more conservative or less conservative area, and you can't get past the will of that body. But if you're trying to get through the person, I give you the bulldozer of it is not the law or the regulations on their side, and it is their personality that is the bulldozer, which I so enjoy blowing up because it is so gratifying to take that person to the board. And not that this has ever happened to me ever, but it did. And to be able to say, actually, that's not the case. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. As you can tell, it's kind of a hot button issue for me.
I mean, SEPA is very clear, and it's only about images. And it's astounding to me how many network administrators are ill-informed or downright mendacious about this issue, because it's easier for them to just say, well, we can't get E-rate funding, so we can't let those things. But honestly, I've talked to people in the U.S. Department of Educational Technology who look at you and say, that doesn't say that anywhere. Like, there's no way that it says in our documentation that you can't get funding if you allow access to YouTube. Yeah. And I mean, YouTube has, for better or for worse, become a phenomenal educator in our country. And to say, well, you might come across an image that might, that might somehow offend us. I think that it's much more important to teach the kids to be the filter, to know what to do when they run into something that doesn't sit well with their own personal values, that they need to have strategies in order to fix that and remedy the problem, rather than to just say, just to sit there and go, oh my gosh, that's gross, I don't want to look at that. Then if they know what to do and they know what recourse they have, then that's a much more constructive educational experience.
TL chat, can I have a big old amen?
Yes.
Great. Amen.
And Michelle, I'll tell you, 2 years ago, I left library for a year and came right back. But I was instructional facilitator for a one-to-one rollout with 3rd and 4th graders. And even with filters in place, even using, quote, safe search sites, there were still images that popped up that were completely inappropriate. Even, kid Rex and all those others that are supposed to be safe. And what I just taught the kids to do is, okay, so there's an inappropriate picture there. What should you do? And they were like, get off of it. And I'm like, yeah. So, it gave us the opportunity to talk, even though there were some filters there. But what I found is when I've worked in school districts, like probably the best one for having the internet open and actually teaching kids about social media and about how to use websites correctly was at Hoover High School. The admin there, they knew what they were doing, and they embraced the fact that kids were going to make mistakes and they were going to do bad things with social media and they were going to make mistakes with websites, and they used it as learning experiences. They called the kids in and they didn't punish them, but they talked to them about why that was inappropriate. And when the whole yik yak thing came and just attacked schools, the way that Jennifer Hogan was our fabulous administrator there, Jennifer Hogan and Holly Sutherland, who actually are the moderators for the Alabama Ed Chat and for the US Ed Chat, which is great to have administrators that are leading Twitter chats. But their whole thing was, no, we're not going to block Yik Yak. We're going to allow students to be on Yik Yak. But what we're going to do in the meantime is we're going to flood Yik Yak with nothing but positive messages until the ones who want to use it in an ugly way are tired of it and don't even want to use it anymore.
And that happened. I mean, ultimately, it was over in weeks.
Like 2 days, the kids gave up. The ones who were being ugly gave up, and we didn't have to worry about it anymore.
No, I mean, that we had something like that at my school where, Instagram, there were kids on Instagram. Well, guess what we did? My principal and I sat down, and what did we do? I followed the kid on Instagram, the account the kid made up on Instagram. We followed him. Well, that account quickly went away as soon as, we followed them on the Instagram account, because they didn't want their principal and, a librarian following them. And then everything was nice and it went away. We didn't shut it down. We didn't, do that. We just, made it known that we were watching them. And that's the thing. I mean, I think Eric Schellinger, and I always say his name wrong, last name wrong, but he says it best. Like, he talks about how he was the principal that used to shut things down, had everything locked up. No one could use anything. But we weren't teaching our kids anything. And as soon as he opened things up and taught them how to be good digital citizens, they actually were better than when we had everything locked down. They became better kids. The lockdown went away. Things were more open. And everything went better. And if we teach our kids how to be good digital citizens and use these tools in a good way instead of locking them out of them, it's going to be better in the long run.
It's interesting. One of the things that we're having a lot of discussion about right now is where we are with Google Plus, because kids need access to Google Plus in order to access, basically to log into a whole series of apps. And so part of the conversation around Google Plus becomes, all right, so what if we open Google Photos and we open this and we open all of the tools that are really come along with that? Well, we run into the risk of having inappropriate behavior, but you also gain the advantage of having them do all of those inappropriate behaviors attached to an account. They have 100% accountability. And how much better would it be to actually have that in place? And then you can actually follow up with the students who misbehave. But it seems to me that policies that emerge out of fear tend to teach very little, whereas policies that emerge out of trust tend to promote a great deal of learning.
I agree 100%. And, I'd love to learn more. I hope you write a blog about what's going on with the legislation, because a lot of us tonight have said, you know, it's whoever your IT person is district-wide. But now what you're telling us is it's coming from the state level, right?
And it's interesting. I mean, it's what they're trying to do is make sure that districts are mindful of reading licensing agreements, and I don't have a problem with that. I think that, you know, children's privacy is important, and you don't want to be the vehicle that allows their personal private data to be pushed out there in ways that are inappropriate or marketed inappropriately. But the problem with the legislative aspect of this is that it's very arbitrary, and it doesn't really take into account what it is to be an educator and what it is to be in a classroom, and how, like, you can't decide in June all the software that you're going to be using for the next year. That's just that's an unrealistic expectation. There has to be a mechanism to allow people to make fairly responsive decisions around teaching and learning. And our job is to teach. And increasingly, our job is to teach in environments where, you know, Maine was a pioneer in 2003, but think about how many more schools are now one-to-one, either through BYOD or through devices issued by the school system themselves. So we have an increased need to teach these elements, these basically the citizenship in the school districts. It's elevated now in ways that we hadn't anticipated before, and we find that the legislation piece is becoming increasingly restrictive as opposed to less restrictive, and giving less decision-making authority to the school systems themselves, and that's a growing concern.
So a new front to fight on, and you know we'll take that up. Can you believe we only have 9 minutes left, and we promised the last 5 minutes to our wonderful friends. What we're going to do this season is start having a vendor spotlight. And so the last 5 minutes we're going to give to our vendors, because we love our vendors. They do so much for us. But before we get to our vendor spotlight tonight, let's give everybody a final word. And so Meredith, I know you were having some phone trouble, so if you have a final word you want to say with the audience, to librarians, to the kids we serve every day, or to authors, or all of us, here's your opportunity for your final thoughts.
To say
just put you on the spot.
Can you hear me?
You're kind of breaking up just a little bit.
I'm sorry. Should I keep going?
It's freezing up, Meredith. What we can do is, if you'll email me maybe your final thoughts or any links that you would like for us to have, we can add that to the wiki and send that out to everyone to watch. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Oh, technology will get us every single time. Craig, did you have any final thoughts?
Well, I was just following that discussion, and that's what, in Washington, we pushed our legislature for a specific digital citizenship and online safety requirement. The school districts show how you're doing it. And where, you know, if you're not using teacher librarians, then show us how you're doing it. And I appreciate this conversation with Michelle and everybody, but the other final word in all that digital citizenship, the first lesson I teach is screenshot. If you've got a problem, take the screenshot and then close the screen, but you've got the problem in your hands. Thanks.
Love it. Thank you. Alyssa, final word?
I mean, you guys have all inspired me again. I'm going to go and do my banned book display tomorrow. That is going to be on my list of things to do now. And it's inspired me some because I am very liberal in my buying practices, but the librarian before me, I think we also have to take into account, and I know this is like goes off a teeny little bit, but we ban us as librarians, when we're purchasing books, we sort of tend to, in our own way, ban books. And we need to think about that when we're doing things. And we had, like, the librarian before me sort of had a policy where she would, in her own mind, think what was best for the middle schoolers. And so she self-selected and sort of banned some of those books that are good for these kids. And so I think that, you know, I'm going to now, in this year's buying process, make a concerted effort to get back some of these books that we didn't have in the past that need to be in our libraries for our students, that, you know, might be a little more controversial or whatever. So I think we need to sort of think about that too, if that makes any sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And honestly, one of the best workarounds for that is to include kids in the book selection process.
I agree.
Yeah. And Jonathan has up an awesome screen share. Jonathan, did you want to tell us about your screen share?
I'll say 2 seconds. I'll put the link in, but I do this whole presentation about it. And Michelle mentioned Maine is way ahead in terms of having had this program in place, MLTI. Every 7th and 8th grader in the state has had a one-to-one device since 2003. And yet, look at us, 41st in the highest number of high school students bullied online. And then I use this image as well to say, if we're not talking about it, who is? And are we sending them home by themselves to try to figure it out on their own? And pulling through just some other statistics, but one of the things that's really powerful to me is this image of the kid who, again, is sitting on his stairs at home. And what the heck is he doing? How is he supposed to cope with what he's seeing? So I feel like I'll put that in there, but anything we can do to, as Craig said, make that not a sideline conversation, but a central piece of what we do is it's not just important, it's imperative for kids that are not getting the support they need in other places.
Yeah, when we have kids who are killing themselves because of what being said on social media, I mean, Laura Silverman's an adult and can deal with it a little bit better, but kids, you know, we've got to do what's best for these kids, and I don't think that's what's being taken into consideration when, you know, the legislators are deciding what they're doing. Now to go from that heavy subject over to Shannon, sorry. Shannon, who's going to talk to us about the vendor spotlight and Canna learning, right?
Okay. Hopefully I can bring up my screen here quick. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes, I see it.
Good. Okay, since we only have a couple minutes, I'm going to talk really fast. And one of the new hats that I wear is I am the Cantata Learning Library Advocate, and I consult with them, and I'm writing some books, and I'm crazy about Cantata because they're new books with wonderful illustrations, picture books, but the cool thing about them is they're all paired with music. And so the kids are not just reading them, but they're listening to these great songs that are online and also that we've always had in the back of books as CD. But it's really fun for kids to be able to go to these and learn social studies and science topics and nursery rhymes, just all kinds of different topics. I was telling Alyssa, we were talking about some of her kids today and using them with them in the library in the classrooms, and I was telling her all of the different topics, and one that I'm really excited about are the new STEAM ones that came out this fall. And so tying into engineering and math and technology, but not just a great picture book, think about your kids singing these songs too, and just like the new nursery rhymes that we also have. But something I'm really excited about and why I wanted Cantata to be the first vendor spotlight that we had for TL Newsnight this year were the Harmony projects that we have throughout the year. And the first one, tying into, I think, what we're talking about tonight, just our communities and celebrating our communities and our differences and our things that we have to celebrate that are unique about where we live and our kids live, is the Give a Shout Out to Your Community project. And I put links into this, and we'll share a link too. I think that probably it's being shared on Twitter right now, that you can go and you can get to all of the information about this. And we're doing something really cool, and we're celebrating each week throughout the project with these meet and greets. And so last week we were in a food truck with Chef Jason in Denver. Today we were with Michael Dahl, and the next 4 weeks we're with an optometrist and Emily Arrow, and my brother even, who is a farmer in Iowa, and also my friend Nick Hobson, who is a bike mechanic and instructor. And so just celebrating all of these things with our kids, and then in turn having them celebrate their communities too. Capstone has also put together a great set of about 100 ebooks that they've made free that kids can use when they research communities. And also Pebble Go is free until the end of November, which is a huge thing. So your kids can have a really good place while they're researching all these different projects they can do. So this page just gives you some ideas. You could do how I help my community. You could do meet someone special, a community I'm curious about, just all kinds of fun things, or your own idea too. I'm working with a class in Van Meter, a 5th grade class, and we're gonna be doing a video and then writing a rap with some actual movie producers and artists, musicians that are going to help the kids. There's also this great Symbaloo that you can find really neat things on. And then once you're done with your project, everybody's going to put them into this Google Slides presentation, and then I'll turn it into an ebook that can be shared with everybody around the world and the people who have participated. Last year when we did our project, we did a winter project, and that was the first one we did, and we had over 250 schools participate, and so it was awesome. And Craig, he was the one at last week that was with Chef Jason with his kids in Seattle, and it was just so awesome, and I can't wait to hear Craig's story and everybody else's too. And so check out the bit.ly at the bottom to learn more about Cantata Learning and all of the great products that are being created, and also you can join the project at this link too. There, that was quick.
Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate that, and we love our vendors. Do know that anything we mentioned here tonight, as well as more information, we will have links to it up on our wiki within the next day or so. Hopefully Jonathan will send us his slides he was showing earlier, and any other links. So Michelle, Meredith, if you have any links that you would like for us to share out on the wiki as well, just make sure to send those to me. We're out of time. We're about to go to the debates and get some really great examples to share with our kids of the misuse of social media. And so we're going to let Craig tell you about our special guest for next month, October.
Well, we're ready. You know, in October 17th, our special guest will be the Alaska crew, led by Cheryl Whitting in Juneau, Alaska. I've enjoyed the Alaska crew, and I look forward to October 17th. In the meantime, let's see how our candidates use social media.
Good night, everyone. Be safe and love your kids. Bye-bye.
Bye.